Hello, today I'm talking to Kathleen Bulger, and it's my great pleasure to chat with Kathleen. She's a friend of mine, and I've met her through a couple of programs that we've been in, kind of doing a deep dive into who we are. And I thought it would be lovely to chat with you today for talking about your own green dot moments, which I've spoken to people before about, and basically are those aha moments that we have in life. What I'd like you to do maybe is take a few moments and let us know what you think is important for us to know about you.
Well, I guess the biggest thing is that, yeah, we are friends, and I'm super grateful for that. And I'm super grateful for having gone through some of the WEL-Systems programs and conversations with you. That has opened things up for me dramatically. But I am a registered holistic nutritional consultant. And that's a long title for I look after your wellness from your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual side. So with me, I don't just look at somebody's nutrition and the food they put in their mouth. I want to know the thoughts they're thinking. I want to know their daily habits. I want to know if they're hydrated. Like, I'm looking at the big picture because you and I both know that things that affect people emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically manifest in their body. And lots of people aren't really aware of that. So I work at looking at the social and cultural conditioning that people have decided is them when it was really just someone's opinion. So it's a whole holistic outlook.
That's incredible. Thank you for that. So, the reason that I set up this set of conversations is because I really want people to see the possibilities in their own lives, and I want to see what things you've learned that have been a game changer for you. Those are the green dot moments that I like to talk about. Can we maybe start with one of those?
One of those.
Sure
There's been a lot. Green dot moments are something that, like you say, the aha moments, the minute something hits you. Well, I've had both green dot moments on my own, coming up with things on my own, and then I always say the universe gave me a little shove, then it gave me a punch, and then it knocked me off my feet. And every time that was a green dot moment. And for me, the first thing that happened to me was I was in a major accident several years ago. And it was a green dot moment for me to go, wait a second, I'm in control of my life, my health, my choices. I don't care if you wear a white coat. And it's not that I don't respect medical professionals. I have the utmost respect. They have saved my life on so many levels, but they weren't able to give me the whole picture. So that was my green dot moment to really start going, what is the whole picture? What do I need to know about this vessel that my soul is living in with the purpose to move through the world to make a difference? And what am I doing to feed it and nourish it and nurture it on a very fundamental level instead of doing it on autopilot and sort of eating whatever I grew up eating? Not that that's a bad thing. We have comfort foods in there, but sometimes it doesn't serve our unique beings. Like I lost organs and I didn't know how to feed myself for those missing organs. Learning those things, like those are huge green dot moments, but there's been so many. And I guess learning that everything's a choice, like that you actually have a choice in every minute of every day and every decision, you have a choice. Even when you think you don't have a choice, your choice is believing that, which sounds so out there to some people, but that's a big green dot moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have choice in every moment. That was a huge one for me to learn, kind of internalizing things instead of always outwardly looking for answers or trying to figure out what's out there that's going to help me move forward or what's maybe stopping me from move forward. It's an inside job, right? If we have to internally reference. Once we start internally referencing, that's when the magic starts to happen. That's when we start to trust ourselves, which is not always easy, especially when we're used to having people outside of us telling us this is what we should do, this is what we have to do, this is how we have to move through our worlds. So your focus is on nutrition, but a holistic approach. What would an engagement with you look like?
I think that's the interesting part. And I love that everybody's very unique and everybody's very much an individual. So we generally start out with a simple coffee and a conversation because I want to know that we're a good fit to work together. If somebody has a lot of resistance and doesn't want to open up to themselves, we might not be a good fit. But if somebody really wants to do some changes and really step into the new vitality of their life that they can live by making different choices about not just what they eat, but how they think, how they feel, and the choices they make. And if they're willing to let go of some of the social and cultural conditioning that's been ingrained in us. Now, I didn't come into this awareness till I was in my 50s. So it's never too late. People say, "Oh, I'm too old for that." And I'm like, no, no, that's another social and cultural conditioning. You're too old for that. And a pile of nonsense.
Yeah.
That is social and cultural. You're never too old to make a change that benefits you, ever, ever.
I agree. And it's interesting you should use that term letting go. I was reading something this morning because and it struck me that we spend a lot of time trying to learn the next thing or learn some skill or some process to help us move forward, when oftentimes what it is that we need to do is let go of something that we already believe that is simply not serving us.
That's so true because we haven't learned to listen to ourselves. We haven't learned to listen to the needs of our body, our mind, our soul's needs, because we've been conditioned to dismiss that. Right down from when you were little. I mean, in my generation, it was like, stop crying. Don't be so sensitive. Don't. And I'm like, yeah. And I mean, even with my own children, God love them. I didn't know any better when I was raising them. And I did raise them. I feel I raised them in the best possible way I could with the information I had in the moment. It doesn't make it right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just how it was. But now it's having conversations with my children saying, how does that make you feel? Where does that feel? Where do you feel that in your body? Even, I mean, I have a daughter who has had a lot of traumatic events happen to her. And it's like, take off your shoes, put your feet on the ground, breathe, and just allow things to flow and cry till you're done. And she's like, well, what if I'm never done? I'm like, oh, you'll be done. It happens. I know there's an end. Trust me. It's like, and that's some of the things that people have to do. People are holding on to illness and dis-ease in their body. And a lot of it, I wish I could find the quote. Oh, here it is. I love this. So Edward Bach, who invented the flower remedies and does the rescue remedy and the Bach flower remedies, I just want to read this. Disease will never be cured or eradicated by present materialistic methods for the simple reason the disease in its origin is not material. And I love that. That's very much, and I'm, that's that. What do you say to that?
But it's true, right? That's one of the things that I've learned in the last couple of years is that we tend to stick to that Newtonian model, right? That says that there's something wrong and we have to fix it. We have to address that one thing. It's never that simple. It's right. It's that holistic, like what's going on in your life, what's been going on in your life for years. And for me, the last 3 years, like it's been absolutely a game changer to realize that I have all the answers and to stop looking out there and to realize that if I've got something that's going on in my body, then at some point in time, I might need a medical practitioner, but start with what's going on and then think about diagnosis and stuff like that. If it even is necessary. Like I used to get headaches all the time. And now when I get up in the morning, instead of popping a Tylenol, I go for a walk if I happen to have a headache, which I almost never have anymore. Just moving my body and loosening things up and letting things move, oftentimes will rid myself of any discomfort or ache and pain that I might have when I wake up in the morning.
And that's exactly what I do with people is I become their accountability partner and get people to journal and track those things. I'm not sending people out to exercise and run a marathon and join the gym.
Mhm.
I want people to go out and move their body. And I've said before, I don't care if it's hula hooping. If that feels good, it makes you feel like a kid and you play again and you can release and have fun, then move your body that way.
Mhm.
I'm not opposed to working out, gyms, marathons. That's great if that is what you're drawn to do. If that's the impulse you're led to follow, follow it. It's not for everybody.
Mhm.
And moving your body, just like you so beautifully demonstrated, can change your biology.
Yeah, absolutely changes your physiology. And I realize too that, I'm gonna be 60 next year, right? I wake up sometimes and I've got hip pain. If I do a little bit of yoga and it takes maybe 10 minutes, it's gone.
Yes.
It's gone.
Yes. And sometimes things like if you look at old school traditional herbal medicine
Mhm.
and Bach flower remedies, Bach flower remedies you can give to babies, pets, everybody, because it's actually informing your vibration. It's not medicating you, it's adding a vibration to your body to shift your own vibration a little bit so that you feel better. So I'll tell you a little example. My daughter had a brain injury. She fell off a cliff when she was just before her 16th birthday and had a brain injury, had to have plastic surgery on her face. And it was traumatic beyond that. I got a call from a 911 operator and I had to be at the base of that cliff while they retrieved her out of a tree partway down the cliff. And it was like a 150-foot fall. It was not like 20 feet. It was a big fall. And the trauma stored in my body from that. And a very good friend of mine, who's a naturopathic doctor, came to me, and that was my first introduction to Bach flower remedies. And that was 32 years ago. And gave me rescue remedy and put drops in my water and got me to drink it. And I put drops on my daughter's lip. Her lip was split open, but I just put them on the inside of her lip. And just that shift in energy, I could again breathe. And when you can breathe, things can move through your body. And I could swallow again. So I could drink more water and hydrate. And hydration helps things move through your body. So it's just that shift in energy. And that's what we forget is plants hold energy. They hold an energy that when we eat good food, good plants, they actually nourish our body, not just in vitamins and minerals, but the energy in them shifts and change. That's why eating raw foods as a portion of your days is so important because you need the energy from those plants. They get it from the sun, they convert it, they give it to us, we convert it. I mean, it is the natural chain and progression. And the same is true with water. Like we need those things
Mhm.
on a cellular, foundational, spiritual level, not just physical.
I like that you talk about the shift in vibration. Breathing does that for us too. And you said you were at a point where you took something to help you breathe better.
Mhm.
That was something that I was not aware of for years. I was holding my breath like a lot, like I wasn't breathing fluidly at all. Water's another one. And I find that I am not lazy, but not cognizant of the fact that I'm not drinking a lot of water during the day. I used to be really good at it. I remember at one point when I was kind of glued to a desk in my corporate life, I always had a
Yes.
glass of water, and as I was draining it, I was going back to the water cooler to get more. And it's not in my consciousness anymore. I know it's an issue right now because I'm pretty sure I'm not hydrated enough. Um, what what do you think it is that my body is not sending me that signal? Go drink something. Go drink something. Go drink something.
It is also, again, social and cultural conditioning. And here's the thing, we don't realize all the subliminal messages. Like if you're busy doing something, you're not going to take time to get up and get a drink because you're going to lose your train of thought. That's what you think,
Yeah.
right? But in fact, if you get up and get a drink, you're probably going to come back with a fresh new thought. But we've been conditioned to think we'll lose our train of thought. I don't want to get up and go pee all the time. But if you get up and go pee, your body's moving, things are moving. Walking over there, the process of elimination, walking back helps things move through your body. new, fresh ideas, energies, thoughts, feelings, emotions. Like, but sometimes we're still shut off to that. It is like peeling it off in layers. And I mean, I'm going to be 60 next summer too. And it's like, I feel like the work started a few years ago and it will continue for years and years to come as I peel down and realize
Mhm.
all these little things that have been ingrained and taught to me and become part of my subconscious. And that's why habit resonates with people, but one of the reasons I don't love the word habit is because habits happen by default, living by default. You can just go on autopilot.
Yeah.
I don't really want people to go on autopilot. I want people to develop new intentional ways of moving through the
Mhm.
world, to intentionally drink water,
Mhm.
not to necessarily make it a default habit, but to make it an intentional process where you're going to have a drink, nourish your body, feed your soul, feed every cell in your body. Like, have it be more intentional, and you will get so much more benefit out of it
Mhm.
if it's intentional. And so for you, you need to even till you get, till you switch up from habit to really doing what feels right for your body. Even if you set a timer on
Mhm.
your phone or your watch or whatever it is that you use as a device,
Mhm.
then eventually you'll realize, oh man, that feels really good. And you will stop needing that reminder and you will start doing it because you will reprogram yourself to that feels great. I'm going to keep doing that.
Interesting. As you were talking, I kind of had my own little green dot moment because this summer I moved, I did a lot of things and I went back into habit. I realized that I spent most of the summer back in busy mode, which is how I used to live my life. Checking things off a list, making sure this person's looked after, making sure I've done that, making sure I had a visit with that person. And I came back from Nova Scotia, where I actually got to see you in the flesh for the first time, which was awesome.
It was.
And my asthma kicked in, and for 3 weeks I could not stop coughing.
Mm.
And then at the end of it, I thought, what's going on here? And I thought, well, maybe your inhalers might help here a little bit, which they did because I hadn't been using them enough. But I realized that I had sent my whole life into um, to run a pattern again because I had so many things going on and I didn't want anything to fall off the table kind of thing. And again, that phrase letting go from earlier, like the last couple of days, it's like, okay, what do you just let some of this stuff go? Like so much of this stuff is it may be important, but now is not the time for it. And I've come to realize through WEL-Systems that everything I do on a daily basis now really needs to be intentional because it's all part of my own evolution, right? If I can be my
Absolutely.
best person, then I can show up for the people in my life as the best version.
Absolutely.
And you're absolutely right. That's not by habit. Like we learn habits, which they kind of get us through the day, right? Like, and I was the queen of, again, checklists, right? Cramming as much stuff in as I could from the time I opened my eyes in the morning until the time I put my head back on the pillow at night. And it just, and it almost becomes it's like an addiction. I did 65 things yesterday. Maybe I could do 66 today, right?
Oh,
And
that
it's this
is,
silly game.
it's social and cultural conditioning. Busy is better. Busy is valued more. Busy holds more intelligence, more energy, more blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I know. And even like I was getting a little bit resentful even walking the dog, right? Like because it's like, oh, I gotta do this again. Because and then but now when I get up and I get the leash and I'm talking to my dog who's beautifully asleep on the floor right now.
Good
And
dog.
I'm feeling that my feet fall on the ground and I'm like, like connecting, listening to the birds singing. This morning we walked in the rain. I love a summer rain. I didn't care if it was getting wet. And when you can stay in the moment, which is can be a really hard place to live. Because oh, did I say that yesterday? That person. Oh, or what am I going to do tomorrow? Like I was so good at bouncing back between the past and the future that it was really hard to learn to live right now. Because right this minute, this is all I've got. This is it. What choice am I going to make in this moment to to further my own evolution? which is why I'm talking to you.
And it's true, because I always tell people because all of us, I haven't met anybody yet. I'm not saying everybody, but I haven't met anyone yet who says, oh no, I'm very good at intentional breathing all the time. I've never met anyone who said that yet. And I'm still not super good at it. I still catch myself holding my breath.
Mhm.
But it's like, as soon as you breathe, things change. Things change.
Yes.
Like, it's kind of a crazy thing that breathing's what we need to do to be alive.
Mhm.
But none of us have ever been really taught, well, not none of us, many of us have never been taught to do it very well and with intention.
Mhm.
And like you said about holding your breath, and most people will say, well, I'm coming because I have neck and shoulder pain. And but because when you're holding your breath, your lungs end up here.
Mhm.
You are holding up all that muscle and everything by keeping your lungs full by holding your breath. So as soon as somebody comes, I'll say, you probably hold your breath. And they go, I don't think so. And next time I see them, they go, I hold my breath. And I'm like, yeah. So do I know it because I have experienced that. That's not something I read in the book. That's something that I know to be true. And once I know it to be true, then I research it and I go, oh, yeah, that's actually a thing. And that's one of the things massage therapists and occupational therapists and everybody's studying now is all of those effects. And there's so many things that we have to do to stay alive
Mhm.
that we do living sort of on autopilot instead of intentionally.
Yes.
Same with food. Like, I mean, how many people eat stuff and will eat it over and over again and go, oh, I love that, but that doesn't make me feel great. And they still keep eating it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but so know the consequence. No, there's no punishment. There's no punishment, but there's consequences for some things.
Yes. And it's interesting because diet's been an interesting one for me because I was separated from my husband for 5 years. We've reconciled and we kind of were dating for about 3, but I was still living in my own space. And he eats very differently than I do. And I'm finding that really a little bit of a challenge now to try to, because I'm mostly a vegetarian, just because I enjoy eating that way. But I'm finding myself the last couple of weeks really going back to some of those comfort foods that maybe are not so great. Like I made cookies the other night. I haven't made cookies in years. And, went through that batch pretty fast. And it's okay to have one every now and then, but I really have to mindfully start to plan meals again and find something that's a good balance for both of us. Right. He'll do some of the cooking, I'll do some of the cooking, but it's when we talk about habits, I refuse to say I've gone back.
Right.
I've moved forward, right? I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago in any way, shape, or form. But this me today in August of 2023 is trying to figure out how the hell do I eat?
Well, you can't go back. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You can't go back. And you can only move forward.
Yeah, but we can run those old habits that
We can run
give
those
us
old
the
habits.
illusion that we're going back, kind of thing.
Right. So now that you know better, you have the choice to do
Yes,
better.
exactly.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
Like once we know, and it's not even, I don't ever tell people don't have cookies. So I ask people, what are you putting in your cookies? And how often do you eat them? And are you using white sugar? And do you have any kind of insulin resistance that would make sugar at all an issue? Because changing your sugar won't matter if you have insulin resistance, any kind of type 2 diabetes, or they're even studying dementia's connection to insulin resistance. Like there's so many things. Because if you look back, when we used to eat off the farm and have raw food out of the ground and just boil it, and even your meat was in your yard,
Yes.
and they say, oh, well, we weren't tracking that. There wasn't the same amount of dis-ease in the body because we are so disconnected from our food source.
Mhm.
We are so disconnected from our water source. You turn on a tap, it comes out. You don't know where the heck that comes from, or what condition is it. You trust in someone else to tell you, oh, that's fine to drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many things that we do. Even the air, you go for a walk, like it's hard depending on where you live. I live in rural Nova Scotia. I'm super
Mhm.
blessed to have this space, this air, a garden, like all of those things. But, you know, even going out for a walk, choosing to go walk among trees, even if you live in Toronto, go to the park and walk among trees instead of down the city street. It makes a difference in the air you're inhaling. Like,
Mhm.
there's so many things with holistic nutrition. It's not just food. And back to breathing and your asthma. And the same is true for me. So I had some respiratory issues, but what was I not paying attention to in my heart center? What was I not being totally true to myself and living my values, my core values, beliefs, and attitudes that created that constriction that made it hard for me to breathe? And you went out of your way to visit more people than you could and do, and you're doing it for what you've been culturally conditioned to believe are the right reasons.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I like the last 5 years essentially have been such a huge shift for me. And then, and it's the throat that I'm noticing a lot, like the coughing. It's like, you know, and that's that chakra that's blocked by lies we tell ourselves and other people, right? So I've been
Right.
very mindful of the stuff that's going on there this summer and thinking, okay, like, am I fooling myself about something here? Like, is there? And I ask myself that question a lot because it's I am a different person now. So running old patterns are running up against who I now know myself to be. And
Yes.
it's been really quite a transition. Like I feel very comfortable in my own skin now. But there was some times this summer where I thought, like, who am I?
So, if you don't mind me bringing it up,
Mhm.
part of it too is you went back to visit your mother,
Yes,
and that's where all your old patterns, beliefs, and attitudes live.
yes, yes,
For all of us.
yes.
For
Oh,
all of us. That's
and I was my mom is now in a manner like she can't really live by herself anymore. Being in her home by myself, oh, ghosts were coming out of the walls. Like it was so difficult to just sit and be in that space because I felt like I didn't belong there. Like I was for years when I walked into my mother's house, I was 6 years old again. And I kind of kicked that to the curb for the most part.
yes.
And it's the first time I was in that space by myself without anybody else around me. So yeah, like I had all kinds of stuff coming up this summer for me.
So that explains that to me explains so much about asthma and so much about speaking your truth. For me, when people come to me and they're having lots of clearing of their throat, and I'm like, so what truth are you not speaking to yourself or to me? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, no, just think about that. It's not a direct question that you need to answer on the spot. This isn't a command performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's just food for thought.
Yeah.
So it's always for all of us. I mean, we are all evolving. I love that. I love that it's not always fun,
Mm-hmm.
but I love that it's a journey, and to be able to just sit instead of asking, you know, what is happening with my throat? What am I running up against? We always need someone to remind us to say, just stop, sit, and breathe, and allow, feel what it is, feel it. We've been so deprogrammed to feel. I
Yes.
mean, you look at things like kids and the movies and the number of, you know, even in games and stuff, the number of killings and tragedies people are exposed to at a super young age. And look at most box office big hits, they're all killing per minute movies and, you
Mm-hmm.
know, all that kind of stuff. We've become so desensitized that we've even lost touch with ourselves there.
Well, and I was thinking this morning, like one of the things that I did early this morning was check the weather because I could hear the rain pouring outside. And I thought, okay, well, how do I have to dress to walk my dog this morning? So I did grab my phone. And I'm looking through the weather channel to find the little satellite so I can see how many big green blobs are going overhead.
Yes.
And this morning they were yellow and red, but I miraculously missed them because I seem to do that all the time. But the thing was, is all the headlines, it's all such fear mongering. This terrible thing is going to happen, and then that terrible event is going to happen, and how
Yeah.
this is going to like it's enough. Like I haven't watched the news in 5 years.
It's funny. I said that to my husband the other day. I said, you know, sometimes I feel oblivious to things. And the fires in Hawaii, oh, because, you know, they were And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I just can't engage in any of that. And it's not because I don't care.
Mhm.
It's because I know from experience that the news is often very one-sided and
And
very slanted.
sensationalizing it.
Well, I went to the Middle East 10 years ago when my husband was posted there for a year. And everything I heard about the Middle East, I got there and none of it was true.
Wow.
And I was like, what is happening? And you get there and the news is like exceptionally different than if you watch Canadian or American TV. And it was like a few sets of reality all existing on different channels while I'm sitting in the same room in the same country. And I'm like, okay, so you don't know what, and I'm not saying like things like the fires or anything like that aren't real, but you're only getting one very small view slice of anything. So I just stopped watching the news and it's like, what is within my control? It's within my control to keep my vibration at the rate of my evolution and continue to expand and attract that vibration of other people who need to raise their vibration and their health and their wellness physically, mentally, emotionally, and that's what I can do. That's my purpose here. That's what I can do. And the more of us who do that, the less space there'll be for all the sensationalism and
Yeah.
all the bullshit.
And I think that when we focus on that and how to be like the best version of ourselves, if you will, like
Yes.
work on our own evolution, because it doesn't mean we're being selfish and we're ignoring everything else. I don't watch the news, but I have a friend in British Columbia who's between the fires that were in Osoyoos and in Kelowna. I talk to her once a week. I check with her. How's it going? She knows to text me if something changes, just so I know how things are. I try to get my information from people as opposed to just something that's kind of squawking at me. And to pay attention to things that I can control. Because if I can't control it, you talk about vibration. If we get depressed and fearful, we're no good to anybody.
Yes. Right.
Anybody.
And we'll just create dis-ease in our body.
Mhm.
And that's not beneficial to anybody. It's raising our vibration and the evolution of ourself is our big responsibility. And in my book, and I know you've read it, but there's a little part in there that I feel very strongly about. And I talk about being selfish.
Mhm.
And if you break the word down, ish means more like
Mhm.
yourself. But we've gotten this bad connotation around self-care
Mhm.
and being selfish. And I'm like, yeah, no. I just saw somebody rant about that on Instagram about how they hate the term self-care and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wow, that's some deep social and cultural conditioning.
Yeah.
That's deep. So I wrote back, if you're not looking after yourself, if you're not eating well, if you're not drinking well, if you're not breathing well, then you're no good to anybody, including yourself. So I think self-care is important
Mhm.
and people need to release the conditioning around that word and embrace their own evolution. And I was like, I'm probably gonna get kicked off for sight, but I didn't care. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Ban
It's,
me. I don't care.
that was a huge green dot moment for me, learning not to care what other people think about me, because they're only seeing a certain slice, right? And they're looking at it from their filter, not mine.
Right.
So for years I would not express opinions about things. Oh, it's too controversial. I don't want to piss anybody off. What I think is my filter, how I'm moving through my life, and this is how I have to move through my life, owning my own truth. Can have a different opinion. That's awesome. If that works for you, that's great. Like, far be it for me to tell somebody else how to think and feel. But I've come to realize at the ripe old age of 59 that if I don't look after myself first and foremost, nobody around me is going to get anything from me that's anything useful.
Absolutely. I could
It's
not
not
agree
possible.
more. I couldn't agree more. You're preaching to the reformed.
Well, this has been awesome, Kathleen. I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me this morning. Any last words of wisdom that you might have for us before we close off?
You know, it sounds very, I don't even know what the word is, but keep in mind, the biggest piece of advice I'd give people is breathe. And people are like, I breathe every day. But no, the biggest thing I would say is to breathe. Both feet on the floor and take 100 intentional breaths a day. So if you did 10 breaths 10 times a day, everybody can make time for that if they choose to. Then that can change your world in a very, very dramatic way.
Mhm.
And I think choosing you for 10 breaths 10 times a day is a big shift for lots of people. And if they can make it, that's a great green dot moment.
Oh, that's really great advice, because I know when I finally learned that I was holding my breath and I learned how to, like, soften the jaw, like all attention that gets held on somebody's jaw, soften the belly, drop the shoulders, that wave of relaxation that goes over you. And all of a sudden you feel like, oh, I got whatever was facing, I got this, I can do this now. It's really good advice. Thank you.
I remember years ago in yoga, because I've been taking yoga off and on for years, and I'm very committed to it now. But somebody said, soften the space between your eyes. And I was like, what? And then I realized you can actually do that. Like your hairline actually settles. And I was like, oh, you can hold tension literally everywhere in your body that you don't even think you can. And breathing switches that. Breathing can change that.
Very cool.
And create ease instead of dis-ease.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I am so grateful to be engaged in a conversation with you, Wendy, because I love that you are as committed to your own evolution as I am to mine. And that moving through this is such a great experience, and to have people to share that experience with is pretty freaking awesome.
Absolutely. Magic's in the conversations, right?
It is. The magic is in the conversation.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.